Welcome to Hobby and Development. I'm Tyler, and we're going to be painting the Morkanaut from my Orks collection that I'm going to be starting. So with this, feel free to use any color you want. I'll let you know some of the colors that I used when I painted this, but overall it was sort of a free form paint as I go, so I'm not sure on 100% on all the colors. I was not sure how I wanted to paint this model, so it kind of developed as I went along. But nonetheless, I did record everything, and let's get to it. So I did use a gray undercoat by Vallejo through the airbrush to get a nice good undercoat going. And it really helps because the undercoat matches so well with Mechanicus Standard Gray and Administratum Gray that when I start layering the two over top, you get a really nice effect without having to apply multiple coats. So I'm using the Mechanicus Standard Gray as more of a base color, and in lighter areas I'm letting the undercoat show through, and then I'll go back through and highlight with Administratum Gray, and that'll give a nice variation in the color of the base coat, kind of to simulate like an old like a gray paint that's been worn. I went ahead and skipped it, but I did paint all of my metallic sections that I wanted to be silver in lead belcher. And now I'm going around with Agrax Earthshade, and it's what I'm going to use to recess highlight all of the gray components. And later on we'll also use that to go over the lead belcher, but we'll highlight the lead belcher, or pardon me, we'll shade the lead belcher first with Nuln Oil to give it a darker feel, and then later on we'll add a little bit of Agrax Earthshade to give it sort of a more used and weathered look. Again, feel free to be as creative as you want and use the colors you want to do, but I used corn red to paint those barrels in the back with Everland Sunset going on all of the cabling, just to break up the colors so that we're not looking at all neutral browns, browns, grays, and blacks. We're going to use Wraithbone as a base coat going on all the bones, and I really love the way contrast paints look, so we're going to use Skeleton Horde when we decide to go over those horns, and it'll just look really nice. Now, this is totally optional. I really felt like I was up for the challenge, so I'm painting checkers using the colors you see there on the screen, Abaddon Black and Corax White. Now, you don't have to be super precise with it because we are going to weather it afterwards, and you'll see how I do that process here momentarily. To weather it, first we're going to make it seem like the paint that we just put on is worn away over time, and we're just going to use our base paints on a sponge, damp it out quite liberally, and then you're just going to apply it and wear it until it's worn away to the effect that you like the best. Then you're going to take any metallic. I'm using the Necron compound dry brush paint, and you're going to dry brush all of the edges and focus on areas that you want to look really worn, and it'll look like the paint has worn away over time, exposing the bare metal underneath. We're going to go ahead and use Army Painter's Weapon Bronze. I really like this color, and we're going to use it on some of the metallics just to break things up a little bit. Now, if you really want to mix things up and give a more worn look, you can do some damage. And you do that the same method that we did earlier, tamping with the sponge, except we're going to use Rhinox hide and then highlight the very tippy tops with a mix of Administratum gray and Corax white, depending on which area of the model, if it's in shadow or if it's in light. And you'll know how to do that if you just use Administratum Gray, and when you're done it doesn't quite look like a highlight, then add a little bit of Corax White. That'll take care of it. You can see all those scratches, all the areas that need to be highlight are going to be hit with one of those two colors, depending on, again, where the highlight falls on the model. So now I'm going to be adding some Rise of Rust from Games Workshop using a dry brush, and I'm going to really focus on the base of the model. Like, this is an old model and it's been through mud and all sorts of just craziness, and it's rusting over time. And this will, again, visually break up the model, add a little bit of realism, and just really make look like it's old and worn and it has seen some better days. As you can see, I'm just going back over the model in areas that I didn't get earlier. My impatience with doing the same thing for a long period of time caught up to me. So now I'm going back and I'm finishing up some of the lead belcher dry brushing on the rest of the model. And you'll see I kind of go back and forth and some things change on the model. I do some more checkering here and there. And then I grabbed some blue and I thought I would experiment with some like very obvious OSL. I'm honestly not even sure which blue this is, but grab any blue really that's light, and I'm shooting it through the airbrush, the Sotar 2020, and I'm making very obvious OSL, kind of over the top, and I think it just makes it just, oh my god, orc, you know, over the top, what is this thing? But the key is to make it brighter where the light is, and you're going to add just a little bit of reflections off of some of the surfaces. And you can see I mess up a little bit. I go in and I dilute a little bit with water. You don't have to be perfect. It's yours. It's you can paint it however you want. And you can even go and do the traditional lens effects. I do use Warpstone Glow. I remember specifically I used it because I love Warpstone Glow. So I use the same thing here on the green. This might be my favorite part of the model. I use Evil Sun Scarlet through the airbrush, and I'm ever so gently spraying red on this part, which is traditionally always painted red. However, I'm leaving a lot of exposed and translucency to it, exposed areas and translucency, to give that just worn over time look, like they keep going back in and they keep painting it, and it keeps wearing off. And I think this right here sells the model. And while I had that paint available, I just went and I used a little bit of it as a layer into the gas tanks in the back, which I had actually gone over with Agrax Earthshade to give it a depth. So I'm just going to use that paint and layer into it. And then I used Agrax Earthshade over the yellow areas to give it some depth, and then I take Uriel Yellow and layer over top of that. Now I am skipping the painting of the orc, but I used the Wraithbone base coat on the orc, and then I used the Citadel's contrast paint, the orc flesh, and did that. And that's how I did the skin on the orc.
Just to keep you warm, then like Jean would do, I watch you to your door. I still wonder when it all ran dry. Will it last a little longer? Do you remember when we were much better? I wish we could go back to when we went singing in the rain. We won't fight.
Now I actually take a bed and black and I go and I make some diagonal lines down all of the cabling, and I really think it sets it apart. Kind of gives it that more cautious type of a braided cable look, and I think it really just makes the section pop. And then you can see on the right pauldron here, I actually went ahead and did a checkered pattern as well.
That knee-high dress, oh you looked so good. You were the queen of Hollywood. Electric nights.
Now I actually take Seraphim Sepia and I use that to kind of weather some certain areas. Seraphim Sepia really looks like an oil when it dries, so I use that a little bit here and there to mix it up and make it look like this thing's been out in the rain.
When we were much better, I wish we could go back to when we went singing in the rain. We won't fight, we'll be swinging from street lights. I wish we could go back to when we went singing in the rain.
Now I have been working on the arms of the model off screen, but everything that I've done on the main model I did again to the arms, so it was redundant spending another 20 minutes showing you how I painted the arms. Instead, here's some sped up video. I do want to mention that I did do the base, however I didn't do a tutorial on the base because this is basically just a Games Workshop tutorial that you can find on their app. I don't really do anything special with my bases, but I do make sure that I get them done, and I think this one looks really good. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm going to try to get more content out there. I know it's been a long time, but it's been a very complicated summer. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post a new video.